Need $1,000,000 like I'm calling with a ransom. Pop out on your ass like my name is Chris Hansen. Couldn't hold they own, now they begging and collabing. Thieving, scamming, hella dirty macking. Death before the sauna, now you.
What's good, everybody? This is Ghost Archives back in the building, and today I'm gonna be honest with you. Ray Vaughn dropped one of the hardest albums this year. Today I'm gonna break down every single track. We're gonna look at the highs, the lows. We're gonna look at the heartbreak within this album, and then we're gonna dive into why this album deserves more attention. So make sure you guys like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and you hit that notification bell. Also, make sure you guys check out my new music video, Stonehenge. That's right there. Make sure to go follow me on Instagram. That's ghost.archive. Let's get right into this album review. All right, guys, so let's get into this album. So Ray Vaughn is based out of Long Beach, California, from the research that I did. But I do know that I believe, if I'm wrong, let me know. Put it in the comments. But I do believe that he spent some time out here in Phoenix, Arizona. So I off top was pretty interested in what kind of story Ray Vaughn has had to tell, because in the past few months he's dropped some songs. He dropped a Crash Out Heritage. He dropped multiple songs, and I thought his rap style was dope. Like, for real, I thought he was dope. But I was interested in his story. He sounded a lot like Kendrick in some songs. He sounded a lot like Baby Keem in some songs. So I was extremely interested in whatever it was he put out after attending the Pop Out concert. Ray Vaughn then went on a whole thing where he dissed like Tory Lanez and everybody that was going at Kendrick. And he dropped a pretty dope video called Crash Out Heritage. And now here we are. We have the good, the bad, and the dollar menu. And off tops, I know that this album, the overall feel of this album for me, so he was stuck somewhere between hope and survival. Another thing that I noticed, track by track, it stayed extremely creative. He stayed very resilient on every single verse that he did. He came in with a 10 out of 10 performance with himself. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell that he was really trying to rap like he was hungry. And I think that's one layer to this album when you get Ray Vaughn actually rapping. But let's get right into it. So Flocker's Remorse, you have that opening where he's talking about robbing the restaurant, and then it gets into the song with, it didn't have a drum to it, but it was dope because he's going through. It gives me a real menace to society type feel as far as Ray Vaughn's mind state. I feel like he was like feeling like O-Dog or Kane or something like that. Maybe more like a Kane, because he still has hope. You know, he has a kid. He's rolled down bad, and he has to make something happen, you know? And he does, like, mention, like, the last thing that he wants to be is on a T-shirt. And that's really what I get from this opening track is, like, all right, like, I'm hungry as fuck, and he's really breaking down how down bad he is. You know, the rent is due, and all that he can afford is, you know, ramen noodles, and he's splitting a 6-piece with his daughter, and that's rough. You know what I mean? You know, and throughout this song in Flocker's Remorse, he's kind of battling that idea of thinking that flocking, stealing, breaking into houses and stuff like that can help him get money or get himself in a better position. But it's also back to that point of survival where he really doesn't have anything at this point. He's down bad. And he brings up a lot of situations that break his heart, and he's trying to remain strong throughout this time. He feels like, you know, in this song, he does feel like he's not getting that support he needs from his mother as well. And he doesn't really get too much into why he doesn't get that support from his mother on this song. But as the album continues, you get more into that story. And not having that support from someone that's so important is another thing that's adding on another layer to his, you know, his mind state and where he's at. And, you know, it's almost driving him crazy. And then, you know, the last refrain that he does, talking about I don't want to end up in a white tee, transitions beautifully into the song XXX T. I love the hook on it. It reminds me of something from Tetsuo and Youth. If you know about that album, that's a Lupe Fiasco album that came out back in like 2015, I believe, 2016. But it really did. It gave me that vibe off of something like that album. That's one of my favorite albums, just in hip hop, period. I have my own connection to that album, but I think it was and I got two ideas from this Triple XT. I felt like one, he was talking about how, obviously where he's from, the culture of where he's from, like the Triple XTs. Like we all know, if you lived on the West Coast or you live like, in areas where there's a lot of Mexicans and we had those stores and, you can get the pro clubs at pretty much any store, you know what I mean? And people would wear like the super, super large baggy shirts, you know what I'm saying? And that's one side of it, because he comes from Long Beach, he comes from like California, that type of vibe. But also when he was rapping and when he was putting stuff out there, he was saying like, I felt like he was saying, you gotta fake it till you make it. Like he wanted to be taller, he wanted to be a bigger dude, so that's why he wore these Triple XTs to kind of, grow into the shoes of somebody that's bigger, larger than life, in a way. And if I misinterpret it, but that's really what the flip I got on the song was, when he was going through the bars, when he was talking about he reflects, because he's reflecting on the struggle. And then I like when he says Big Worm should have shot Craig and blamed it on the Kanye meds. I thought that was funny. Another thing that I got that I didn't really make the connection to until right now was that he, in some songs, he does remind me of like Vince Staples, and they're both from Long Beach. So like it kind of made sense when I seen that. And a couple of things that he said in this song was like, he said, last night I had sleep for dinner. My mommy a alky and my daddy a dope fiend. So that gives you another peek into how he grew up, what his parenting situation was. And, it wasn't all good. He was, both of the role models in his life were dealing with addiction at this time. Now, were they doing it just as he was younger, and then as he got older, we all grew up, or what happened? He gets into later on in the album, but he does say like, I'm getting hurt by the people I need help from. And then that beat switch, and then beat switches, and he gets into the hook where he's like, I'm standing on couches because I'm trying to fuck that bitch, bring the bottles to me. I thought that was dope. I liked the beat switch. I felt like if we would have had a full song from the first beat, that would have been amazing. Like, I guess it was a full song, but I just wanted more from that vibe. Like, I felt like it could have been somewhere else on the album, or it could have been just this transition into this next the next beat switch on the Dollar Menu. But I can't knock the Dollar Menu. That beat switch is fire. His flow on there is fire. He's flexing on it. He's kind of like breaking through. He's trying to let you know. He gives you glimpses into what's next for him, because he's a superstar. He has the ability to do very well for himself in this game. He just has to keep continuing the narrative. Another thing I wanted to say about this album is I thought it was dope that we have another album that's cohesive, that's very like, that has something that brings it all together. And you get that with the rapping, the concepts throughout each song. Like it's very, he doesn't have to spell it out, chapter 1, chapter 2, page 1, page 2 for you. It's just, it's a dope story. And I think that even from the big dogs, like when it comes to people that are dropping music, Kendrick, his album didn't really have a narrative all the way through. It had a feel, it had an experience, and it's its own monster. Soul's album, it did have a narrative through it, but at the same time, it wasn't something like one whole concept in its own. Like, I guess it was its own concept, but a narrative being told through is what I'm trying to say. And the narrative being told extremely well. I think Doechii did it very well in this album, on her album. But it was a longer album. This one, I could kind of follow the progression of the story. Another thing that I like I got hints of from Ray Vaughn was he kind of reminded me of like T Grizzly on some of these flows or some of these like beats. Like it kind of gave me like a T Grizzly type vibe. I don't know if you guys think the same thing, but check out the dollar menu on the beat switch and let me know if like you got like a T Grizzly vibe at some of them points. Then you have Flat Shasta. Now this is one of the most personal songs that I heard on this album. He has a couple more, but this is definitely where you get the backstory of his history with his family, you know, about his mom needing medicine for her schizophrenia and not taking that medicine, questioning things like why his father left him, if it was because of that addiction that she had, and was he an addict himself. He also gets into, you know, the history of what happened with his sister, and his sister, you know, almost passing away from unaliving themselves attempt, and in the form of a OD, you know. And the hook itself, the hook of the song is, it reminds me of Luther, but it's a lot more family oriented as far as, you know, wanting to take the pain away from these people that you love so much. You know, it's a lot closer, and you understand the trauma a lot more. You know, sometimes you do know the history of your partner. When you meet somebody, there's a history or whatnot. But when you grow up with people and you see what they go through, or they raised you, and you see exactly how things turn out, you know, you want to see that. It hurts a lot more. It hurts. It's like something that almost, if you feel like it can't be fixed, it's just a part of life, and that's rough, you know. And anybody that's going through that with their family or their parents or whatever, you know, my condolences. And, you know, I pray for anybody. Like, everybody needs to have a, hopefully, you know, have a relationship with somebody, you know, and someone that can guide you, older role models that can guide you. And, you know, a lot of us are blessed to have that. Some of us aren't. And I pray for everybody that goes through that. And Ray Vaughn is like breaking this down in a heartbreaking way. You know, he's not trying to look at it like generational trauma, but it also all is generational trauma. I heard a bar in there where he kind of like tried to play it off like it wasn't, but in everything he's explaining is happening, it really is. At the end of the day, it's not only generational, but it's like it's hereditary, you know. And then he goes into the second verse, and he's comparing he's relating his mother's issues to the current relationship. Then he relates the issues that he has with his mother to the current relationship issues that he has with people that he, you know, his baby moms or his girlfriends at the time. He says in the song, "Can I hold on to your joy? I ain't felt it since I was a child. I swear to go, I need you right now. Life is the toughest it's ever been for Ray Vaughn at this point." I feel like maybe it hasn't, but I really do feel like he's getting to a super low point. And you see the progression of what's going on, like how bad it's getting. And then you get to, I believe maybe would be his lowest point, 3 a.m. at Derry's. I love the beat. There's a very tough tough revelation of, you know, his mom and his cousin, they had gotten sexually abused, and questions if that's why, you know, why he's there, why he was created, how he was created, you know. He questions that as well. There's so many questions that I think that he has that's unanswered. That's, you know, a lot of people deal with these type of issues. And the crazy thing about life is you don't always get closure about things, you know. And you like fixate yourself on getting closure on every single thing. Some things don't get closed up, and I love the saxophone on the production of the song. I think that once the beat was a little out of place, but once I heard the saxophone and the intensity of what he was talking about, it fit. You know, the saxophone was like a blues moment. It was like crying, and I really appreciated, you know, that. I don't know if it was Terrence Martin on those saxophones. I know he's like TDE or whatnot, but yeah, I really appreciated this definitely, I can feel it. It was a tough song for him to make. So, and then we get into East Chat with Isaiah Rashad. I do have a couple of thoughts about Isaiah Rashad and like we'll get into it. So basically, Isaiah Rashad opened up the song talking about the devil is a lie and a freaky bitch. He talks about transactional relationships, how he quit using perks and Zans, and how he's unbothered and how he doesn't give a fuck. It was a smooth verse. However, I did feel like since we haven't gotten too much Isaiah Rashad music since like 2021, 22. I just felt like with the amount of time it's been since we've heard Isaiah Rashad outside, I felt like he could have came with a better verse, to be honest. But it was smooth. It was dope. Maybe I felt like he could have came with a better verse because Ray Vaughn came in and absolutely destroyed it. Like his flow, his entire, like what he was rapping about, how he was breaking it down, his fast rapping flow on this song, it was extremely dope. Like I was super impressed by this song. This is actually one of the high points. Not the highest point of this album, but one of the high points. It sounds like he's talking maybe about more of his current life. While he's getting money, he's able to change things up. He talks about how there's rich women around him, they doing cocaine, but he doesn't, like, he's not trying to really get into that. But I mean, I don't know, he kind of is like bound. I don't know, it seems like he's but he doesn't, he's not partaking, and then people are treating him like he's switching up, because he's got that. But he also is like saying, who helped me out when I was eating on the dollar menu? Like, who the fuck was helping me when I needed the dollar menu? Nobody was there damn near for me. People were doing me dirty when I was eating off the dollar menu. So why, now that I'm doing good, I gotta help y'all out, Then we get into Clown Dance with J-Rock. I've been flocking, I've been thieving. If I'm a crash dummy, then let it be me. I like that bar on there. If I'm a crash dummy, then let me be. I like J-Rock on the hook. I like the hook itself. Ray Vaughn, again, he just keeps coming in with these fiery verses, talking about the struggle, talking about where he comes from, flocking, gang members, jail, everything though that he's doing is in order to get himself out of that survival mode. And then he puts that, like, it seems like every time he's talking about these type of things, he's not even really talking about rapping. He's not even really talking about trying to get out of that position of rapping. He's just trying to get out of survival mode so that way he could provide and then get himself to a point to where he can go, all right, I can take another step. But this is the good, the bad. So we got, the other step is the bad, and then we go to the good. But we're at the dollar menu right now still. I liked when he said, I ain't scared of shit but my mama's belt and the DA. That was cool. That was like a little flip on a saying I've heard before. I do feel like on J-Rock's verse, and it could just be a coincidence, but I feel like he was like kind of referencing his recent arrest when he was saying like, don't be stupid. Or he said, you can't be dumb. You got to keep that banger on me or something like that. And then fresh up out the pen and got one in the chamber. Like, I feel like he was referencing it, but also I was like, when was this verse recorded? You know what I'm saying? But J-Rock did a good job on this verse, but again, it felt like very quick. Not quick, man. I don't know. Like, it felt like same flowy. I felt like Ray Vaughn again, and maybe I just have super high expectations from the OGs at TDE, but I don't know. Ray Vaughn is just the star of the show on all these songs. So shout out Ray Vaughn for just just making me like what he had to say more than, an artist that I know that I listen to their music. If J-Rock were to put out a song tomorrow, I'm like, bro, I'm on that. But this was dope. I liked Ray Vaughn's part on this song more than I like J-Rock's song. That's just my opinion. Look at God with LaRussell. This was my favorite song, and I like LaRussell, but I seen him more on like the live rapping stuff. And he's like super, like, he got his own swag. I appreciate it, but I didn't really like. I wasn't too into it, but on this song was fucking fire. The beat was fire. Ray Vaughn snapped on this song, 100% snapped on this song. This is my favorite beat on the project. It's like a West Coast mixed with a little bit of like not Watch the Throne, but like Mercy. Remember like Click, Mercy, New God Flow type feel. That's what this like beat gave me. It was like a West Coast version of New God Flow, or West Coast version of Click. More like Click, you know what I'm saying? Because it had those strings in it throughout, but it was like a bop. I was there for it. LaRussell killed that shit. He said that like, and it's a real LA, real Bay type sound to it. It has those like watery type keys in the background, like a paramedic, you know. I like the bar in there when he was talking about I know what's coming next, like the Simpsons. I was on the south side rocking the North Pole. I was like, okay. And then he said they was going off. I definitely need to check out more of LaRussell's music. If you guys like a specific song from LaRussell, put it in the comments below. So then we get into Janky Moral Compass featuring Samara Cyn. Somaya Cyn, I believe she's from Arizona. If not from Arizona, she was out here for a long time because I seen her around local shows and whatnot. She collaborated with a couple of artists that I know. And I actually seen a video recently that I want to react to from an artist named Overcast. And I think she did the song too, and she bodied that shit. So I definitely want to look into more of that on that side. But Samara Cyn did a dope job. I believe she provided vocals on the hook and a little bit on the verse. But overall, at the end of the day, they didn't have anybody to really get them out of this rut. So it's themselves that have to pick themselves out of this rut, you know? Yeah, and then when I heard Samara Cyn's verse, honestly, I thought it was a dope verse. I enjoyed her verse on the song more than I liked Isaiah Rashad's verse on the song, or I liked J-Rock's verse on the song, or I liked Ray Vaughn's verse on the song. Like this, her verse actually stood out, you know? So shout out to Samara Cyn for that, you know, for sure. I feel like we are currently in the new era of TDE, because if you look at it, Doechii, she got the Alligator Bites Never Heal. You got Ray Vaughn with this album. I'm just excited to see what the new era of TDE is gonna look like. Is Samara Cyn gonna get on TDE? Is you know, LaRussell got his own thing going on. They don't even need to sign to nobody. They just independent. That's what's dope about it. It's like a new West Coast, and I really appreciate it. I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing here as far as music again, as far as music videos again. He said somewhere in there, he said, I'm eating out the pot that I piss in. Disgusting. I've slipped and I'm falling and I can't get up. A reference to the Life Alert. You know, I feel like I'm running straight towards nothing. You know, the moral compass is broken. I thought it was a dope concept for a song. I think it needs a video. So I want to see a video on there for sure. I want to see a video for this song, Ray Vaughn. At the end of the song, I believe he gets arrested. It kind of has that connection to the first song because he's talking about robbing the restaurant. And I think he actually goes to rob the restaurant. So this is, you know, his thoughts. I think it's like a split reaction almost. You know what I mean? Like this whole album is like a thought into an action. You know, that Flocker's Remorse. Then you get into Miles Away from Heaven. Heavy Truce. Only want to see my daughter when I'm buzzed. Best friend with the drugs, want Xans than a club. And the plug, the only one who loves. OD would be a blessing. Nobody cares he exists. Going to rehab doesn't mean he's going to quit. Suicide playing out in his mental. I appreciate him for releasing these thoughts. You know, it's very hard for people to open up about mental health struggles that they're going through, or even how close they came to, you know, and like we seen earlier in the album, his mom isn't all the way mentally, has a lot of mental issues going on. His sister had a very close call when it came to something like that, you know, so he's kind of going through these same emotions as well. Definitely, you know, God bless Ray Vaughn and his thoughts and whatever, you know, hopefully he's past this point, because this again was another low of the album. This was probably lower than the low. You know, he's not reflecting on these dark thoughts. He's having harmful thoughts to himself. That's even worse. So he's at this lowest point in the album. And Suburban Kids is that reflection of his family. I really feel like he goes through, he's successful, he's at this family reunion. He doesn't want his family members, you know, if he helps one of his family members out, he doesn't want them to become a subscription, somebody that every month he has to help or every week he has to help. And now they don't have that, they didn't have that love for him, and it kind of builds a resentment. But then he kind of gets off of that subject, and he really gets into like living at a friend's house because of his situation with his parents. He gets into living with his being at his cousin's house, and his aunt abusing, you know, like hitting him and his cousin in the face with a bottle or something like that, or like an extension cord or something like that. Crazy. It was wild. It was a wild story when I heard it. You're like, damn, like this is dark, you know, and it's almost uncomfortable. The truths are really uncomfortable on this album. His whole family struggling with addiction. You know, he said that in there. He says his uncle doesn't believe in God because they took away his grandmother and his mom, and he can't get a job. You know, so he's in his own cycle. Someone extremely close to him, they died off his Xanax, and he doesn't know. He questions if that person, his cousin that he lost, even went to heaven. You know, he doesn't know because he knows the real person, and you don't know what happened there. And then the drums come in, and he switches up, and he talks about his baby mom dying during the birth of his child. You get this refrain at the end of the album, and it's like, life be living, life be lifing. You just got to keep fighting. And then I really liked the way that he used his voice at the end of this album to bring it out. So overall, this album is about resilience. It's about survival. It's about family trauma. It's about probably the most uncomfortable parts of life that people want to talk about. He puts it all out in this album. And I'm not saying that's what I'm looking for in an artist, because, you know, when we see with the Kanye stuff, sometimes there's too much. But with these uncomfortable truths, a form of closure, expression. I'm excited to see what Ray Vaughn does next. I want to shout out the new TDE. You know, I want to shout out old TDE, but I also want to shout out new TDE, Doechii, Ray Vaughn, anyone else they got new on the roster. If you guys know of anybody else that's new, drop them in the comments below. Shout out Lar Russell, shout out Samara Cyn, shout out to Isaiah Rashad, shout out to J-Rock. They all had dope verses on this album. Make sure you guys go like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you know every single time we drop a new video. Also go check out my new song, Stonehenge. I got a reel out on Instagram. If you want to check it out on Instagram, go check it out. Got a music video. It'll be linked right here. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll be back.
Need $1 million like I'm calling with a ransom. Pop out on your ass like my name is Chris Hansen. Couldn't hold they own, now they begging and collabing. Even scamming, hella dirty macking. Death before the sauna, now you